Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to another week. Welcome to Monday's edition of the now DC Movie and TV Daily. Yes, we've changed the name. I've changed the name so I can talk about DC movies all round and TV. Doesn't mean I'm going to talk about movies and TV all in one episode. It means if I want to talk about something in the TV world, I will. And if I don't, I'll talk about something in the movie verse all round or maybe in the DCEU. So basically, this is an expanded DCEU daily. So very welcome. So today we've got exciting stuff. Nathan Fillion has been cast in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Isn't that exciting? I'm so happy about that. He's such a popular actor. He's been in so many things. Now, I'd love to tell you what role he's playing, but I can't. So we can't really discuss the character he's playing. My gut is he'll play a good guy. I don't know what type of good guy he'll play. It's very, very interesting. A lot of people wanted Nathan to play a Green Lantern in a Green Lantern film. Yeah, that's been one of the other things with Nathan and being involved with DC. There's so many people who have always said, yeah, but he'd make a great Green Lantern, wouldn't he? Looks like that's not going to happen. Or isn't it? Who knows? Who knows? Could we have a Green Lantern? Look, we've got a King Bloody Shark in this movie. Anything's possible. But no, I don't expect Green Lantern to be in this movie. But anything's possible now with DC. It seems like now that Walter Hamada can do absolutely anything. And a bunch of teases by Todd Phillips yesterday and Warner Brothers accounts, especially on Instagram, for the new Joker trailer, which is hitting this Wednesday. They did this whole thing where they were showing these clips we've already seen from different angles and stuff. Actually, we saw some new clips as well. And they were flashing. It was very difficult to tell what it was, but it was very, very similar to what we got with the Zod Man of Steel trailer. Do you remember with the white noise and everything? Awesome that they're still doing that. Warner Brothers do some great promotional material, and I tell you what, say what you want in the war between the DCEU and the MCU, but our trailers are the fucking best. So this mammoth movie gets its main trailer this Wednesday, and even though I've seen the test screening, I'm very excited for all of you to see the trailer. And even though I've seen the test screening, I haven't seen the theatrical cut. So I'm like you, still very, very excited to see what they're going to offer us and see if there's anything different that I haven't seen yet in this main trailer, because the Joker movie is going to take Disney and the way they make their films like a plank of wood and boom, and yes, just smash it on their knees. Did you just see the fact that I'm wearing my boxer shorts? Very lazy and unprofessional, but that's life. So yes, a Joker trailer this Wednesday, the 28th of August, 2019. Oh, I'm telling you, it's an amazing time to be a DC fan. I think, look, I keep on saying this and it's boring, and I'm sorry that I repeat myself on these videos a lot, but it needs saying. When you look at our slate, which isn't an official slate, but we know these movies are coming. We know we've got 6 movies in production next year. And you look at the MCU slate and you saw what happened with Spider-Man. You see the fact that Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are no longer involved. That there's no plans for more Hulk. I haven't heard anything about Hulk being in any of the movies. And they've destroyed him. They've taken him. They've bent him over. They've taken his torn pants and pulled them down and shafted him and turned him into Professor Hulk. The MCU is in a bit of trouble, even though they keep on making money. But Disney creatively is a mess. It's an absolute mess. And how long can they keep on making this money? And that's what I'm saying. The Joker movie is very important now, because if this works, and I think it will, both in box office and creatively, I think this film is very popular. People are very intrigued about this movie, and I can't wait for them to see it. I think this could be the most successful R-rated movie of all time. And of course, I'll be doing a live reaction to the trailer here on Big Mouth. You don't want to miss it. Forget about those other channels. I've got the charm. I'm using a basic laptop. I'm not a Flash Harry. I'm using the built-in mic in the basic laptop. I'm using the built-in camera in the basic laptop. Isn't that more fun? At least you know I'm real, right? And I'm not asking you for any monies. I'm not asking you to subscribe to anything extra. I'm just here as a fan, and this arm keeps on slipping. And I'm looking all cool like this, right? And I go like that. It isn't good. Right, we move on because there's more Snyder Cut news, and this is very exciting for us Snyder DCEU fans because Desard was going to be in the Snyder Cut. Now, when I woke up this morning and I saw this news, I thought, who the fuck is Desard? Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert. I'm not really a comic book man. I'm a DC movie fan. Superman the movie was my first. Without that film, I wouldn't be here now making these videos. So awesome. So Peter Guinness was Desard in the Snyder Cut. How awesome is that? The film exiles can confirm from a source close to the production that not only was Desard in the Snyder's cut of Justice League, but that he was cast and was performed by none other than Peter Guinness. Peter Guinness is a very, very famous British actor, and he's been in a lot of things. Peter has been actively working in the film and television industry in the United Kingdom. His credits go far and wide, but is most well known for his live on-stage work in theatres. Interestingly, as with Ray Porter, whose casting news we broke in April, he's also very well known for his voice acting. I didn't know that, actually. His most recent role that you may know of is his portrayal of Major Burov in the HBO series Chernobyl. Yeah, he does do a great Russian accent, by the way. Peter's wife is also an acclaimed and talented actress. That's true. In her own right, Roberta Taylor will be well known to many in the UK for the police drama series The Bill, where she played Inspector Gina Gold. And some might say she would make a good Granny Goodness too. She would actually, though this is purely speculation, and she was of course in EastEnders as well. We asked friends of the film Exiles Ramesh De Silva to lend his talents and produce a mock-up of what we think Ray may have looked like as Darkseid. Of course, there is no way to know for certain, especially how much CGI would have been used, but we thought it would be fun to visualize. You can find more of Ramesh's work on his various social media accounts and on his Twitter, Ramesh De Silva too. Ramesh is a very talented artist, a big DCEU fan, a big Snyder fan, and you should definitely go and check him out, by the way. This news further shows the discontent between directors Snyder's version of the film and the one that was released in theatres. Desard was not even mentioned in the theatrical version of the film, and that this was a monumental shift away from the original intent of the script. Guinness might not be a household name, but there is no doubt that director Snyder has always had a keen eye for casting. From 300 to Sucker Punch to his DC films offering, he has always been able to find perfect actor to embody a role. One can only hope that one day we get to see Peter's performance the way Zack Snyder had intended. Wow. Now, who is Desard? I had to, as I said, I didn't have a clue. I'm not going to pretend. Why are you doing DC videos if you don't know who Desard is? Because I love DC. I love DC movies. I love DC TV shows. So there. But anyway, Desard is basically Darkseid's torturer. He's his main torturer. So I don't know what kind of role he was going to play in the film, but this is very interesting now because it looks like the Snyder Cut is actually a film far more in scope, more deep within the DC lore than we ever imagined. And that's important because as we fight to see this cut, this is important. This is a different movie that Zack Snyder was totally going to respect DC canon, and he already has, right? Now, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel may not be your cup of tea, but if you're a fan of the Injustice games, right, it would have been awesome for you. What a shame Warner Brothers and Zack didn't actually build that up publicly and say, we are doing Injustice Superman. I've said this before. That was the mistake, and people would have said, oh, that's why it's so dark and gritty and realistic. Now we get it. My arm's slipping again. God, I'm going to lose it in a minute. Imagine losing my arm live on a YouTube video. That'd be insane, right? But anyway, yeah, this is important now because this film is clearly something really special. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. And as you know now, I'm very confident that this is going to happen, probably on HBO Max. But look, the format could be anything. If we remember Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, had a few days in cinemas, not many, and I think it was mainly US cinemas, and then it went quickly on to Blu-ray and 4K and DVD, and we grabbed it, of course. Very exciting times. Of course, Warner Brothers wanted to make the extra money because they didn't make the money that they wanted to make. Right, when I come back, I'm going to be discussing Smallville and the Arrowverse, right? Because there's been a lot of rumours about Smallville. If you don't know me very well, Smallville, I've done some Smallville videos on here. Smallville is my favourite DC TV show of all time. It was a mammoth show. It was an amazing show. It represented so much of DC Comics, and it taught me, as someone who's never picked up a comic, I actually really learned so much. So we're going to talk about this because Crisis on Infinite Earths is coming. Screen Rant have done an article about this, making excuses why it's so difficult to represent Smallville in Arrowverse, but how difficult it is, blah, blah, blah. And I will tell you the brutal truth, why Smallville won't be represented in Crisis. Well, I love shooting things down from my own intellect when the media try and spin things for big corporations or big producers. And this is what's going on with this article. Now, I'm going to read it to you. As I say, it's about Smallville and this big crossover for Arrowverse and why it's so difficult for Smallville to be represented. You and I know the truth. Any Smallville fan that's watching this video knows the truth. Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. Michael Rosenbaum had Tom Welling on his first podcast, Inside of You it's called, yeah. Very Michael, by the way, you know, Michael Rosenbaum and what he's like. But basically he said, first of all, he's done it. He doesn't want to do it again. And also he doesn't want to ruin the legacy. And I think it's the same as with Tom. They did it for 10 years and it was beautiful. You know, let it be an iconic legacy. Stop trying to do things for, you know, just to make quick money and get some ratings. Anyway, I'm going to read it for you because I'm very passionate about Smallville, and I am no longer an Arrowverse fan. You know, first 2 seasons of Arrow, first 2 seasons of The Flash, maybe the first season of Legends of Tomorrow. You know, I was a big fan, and I mean, I think the first season of Arrow was going close into eclipsing Smallville until they ruined it. Until they ruined this whole franchise. This franchise could have been so damn special. And they ruined it because all they cared about was their little girl audience and their shippers and their SJW commentary. And they ruined it. And what a shame that is. So, yes, get on with it, Mick. I'm going to get on with it. Screen Run. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Why Smallville crossover is so difficult to do. Remember, they're talking bullshit. Smallville won't be included in the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, and there are a number of reasons why it's proven so difficult to make Tom Welling's Superman universe part of the Arrowverse canon. The upcoming crossover will be a truly monumental event. No, it won't. That promises to tear apart the multiverse, but it will also feature appearances by past DC superhero icons like Burt Wood, which I think is pretty awesome, by the way. Perhaps most exciting is the prospect of Brandon Routh portraying Kingdom Come Superman and appearing alongside Supergirl's Man of Steel, played by Tyler Hoechlin. Yeah, he's well popular as Superman, isn't he? I don't mind him as Superman, actually, but a lot of people don't like him. I'm going to talk about Brandon Routh after I finish discussing this, because obviously we've just had some news about him. Since crossovers are inherent in the Crisis, it's hard to blame fans who are clamouring for the appearance of Smallville's Superman as well for a generation of fans. Tom Welling's Clark Kent is the definitive Man of Steel, even if he never technically wore the iconic Superman costume. The flagship series of the WB-CW network for a decade, Smallville has been a major influence on the Arrowverse and on superhero TV series in general. It pioneered recasting DC's comic book icons to be younger and sexier. And that's not all Smallville was. If you haven't seen Smallville, check it out. It's a lot more than that. These people weren't just good looking and sexy, by the way. They were great actors, and the writing. Al Goff and Miles Miller created Smallville. They're geniuses, and you should really check out Smallville because it was a great show. It pioneered, provided fan service by guest starring the late Christopher Reeve, and Christopher Reeve wasn't just wheeling past. He had a proper character. He played an astronomer who told Clark where he was from. A very emotional episode. It's called Rosetta. Again, go watch it. Margaret Kidder, as well as showcasing its version of the Justice League, Justice Society, and the Legion of Superheroes. Again, amazing episodes. And a couple of those episodes were even written by comic book legend Jeff Johns. However, even if Smallville was granted its own Earth in the multiverse, it's still perhaps the most awkward series to meld into Arrowverse canon. The sheer number of conflicting versions of characters and actors from Smallville who have since been cast in Arrows could become confusing for viewers. This includes Erica Durance, who was Lois Lane on Smallville and is now Supergirl's mother, Laura. Right, let me stop you right there. This is the multiverse. So why can't Erica Durance look like Supergirl's mum, but also look like Lois Lane? It's a pitiful excuse, isn't it? And it's not confusing at all. People who read the comics watch these shows. People are intelligent. They're not stupid. Jesus Christ. Smallville's Supergirl Laura Vanderbilt played the villainous Indigo in Supergirl, and Sam Witwer, who was in Smallville's Doomsday, became the Supergirl villain, Agent Liberty, while Durance's Lois would likely be the only core Smallville character fans would want to see appear. What? While Durance's Lois would likely be the only core Smallville character fans would want to see appear in Crisis, it would still require some sort of explanation why she looks exactly like the protagonist. It doesn't need explaining. It's the multiverse. Lots of different people look the same, but they all have different personalities in the multiverse. And this is what I'm talking about, screenwriting. You know nothing about comics. You know nothing about the fans. You know nothing about this world. You write about stuff you don't understand, and you insult us, and you insult our intelligence. Oh dear, Melissa Benoist on Earth 38. Jesus Christ. Smallville's actors, who are all nearly 20 years older than when the series began, have also moved on. People move on with other jobs. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse, right? Tom Welling, who just starred in Lucifer, is perhaps the most reluctant to portray Clark Kent again. I told you this, but it's not just that he's reluctant. Let's not pretend that he's too snobby to play Clark Kent again. He really doesn't want to be involved with Arrowverse. And it's interesting because Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling are both mates with Berlanti. So this could happen easily. But it's not, because they don't want to, because they respect the Smallville canon and they don't want it shat on. Right. He's perhaps the most reluctant to portray Clark Kent again. Indeed, Welling has said he'd be much more interested to play Batman than go back to playing a farm boy from Kansas. Michael Rosenbaum was the definitive Lex Luthor for many fans, but he also recently debunked appearing in the Crisis. Kristen Krug, who played Lana Lang, is more open to the animated Smallville revival because they just have to do voice acting. To be honest with you, right, I'd watch the fuck out of an animated revival. Look, I'd watch anything Smallville. Of course, I'd love a Metropolis spin-off. That's what we always wanted, but it's not going to happen. Look, I'm happy to just watch reruns of the show, quite frankly. I don't really want them in this verse, to be honest with you, because I don't like Arrowverse anymore. I feel absolutely offended by the show. I think it was an amazing show. It was absolutely fantastic, and you could be proud to watch it as a comic book fan, right, of these characters. But then they literally pulled every character's pants down and literally bent them over. And I'm not going to support any show that does that. Meanwhile, Justin Hartley's Smallville, Green Arrow, now stars in This Is Us. Let me tell you a little story. If they're using Justin Hartley in This Is Us, that he couldn't play Green Arrow, right? Terry Hatcher was filming Desperate Housewives, the final season, but still made time to do a kind of video recording of to play Lois Lane's mother in the final season of Smallville. And I think she barely did it for any money, that she did it because she loves the Superman fans, because she played Lois Lane in Smallville as well. So basically, these are pitiful excuses I'm sure Berlanti is putting out there, because the walls are coming around Berlanti, and this is what I say about people who try and do things they can't pull off. TV is a very difficult place. It's like when Smallville did Doomsday. Everybody loved the Davies Bloom element that they had a human side to Doomsday, and the Krypton TV show did a similar thing where we see him when he was human before he becomes Doomsday. But the problem was they didn't have the money to do a great CGI rendering of Doomsday. So Doomsday was basically we saw him in angles and in shots because they weren't able to, it wasn't their fault. They did their best they could. And basically the fight with Clark was good, but basically it was short. And that was the problem. It was like Darkseid and Darkseid Lionel in the series finale of Smallville. It was a terrible thing. We all know that. It was a calamity. But they couldn't really afford to do a proper CGI rendering of Darkseid fighting Clark. So if you can't do that, don't do that. And it's the same with this Crisis on Infinite Earths. They don't have the money or the capacity to pull this off. We all know that. We all know really that Oliver or Grant Gustin's The Flash are not going to die. It's just a tease, and so many of these fans are so gullible, they're falling for this, that they're going to do a great version. Oh, look at the DCEU, hasn't done anything like this. No, it hasn't yet. But when it does, it will be done properly. Unfortunately, Smallville in the Arrowverse would also have to deal with the absence of Alison Mack. This is another pitiful excuse, who is in massive legal trouble and pled guilty to racketeering and conspiracy charges to her role in the Nixon sex trafficking ring. It's already awkward because Max Chloe Sullivan was a prime... Oh my God, as if they just didn't have to mention her. She's in a place literally with her ending, with Oliver, where you wouldn't even have to bloody well see her. Anything can be explained. This is another pitiful excuse. Max Chloe Sullivan was a primary Smallville character indeed. Even Supergirl's version of Superman grew up in Smallville with his own Chloe Sullivan as his best friend, who had a wall of weird. It will be a challenge to say the least to explain Chloe's whereabouts in any Smallville revival. It would not be a challenge whatsoever. You are making excuses for Berlanti. This is why you can't trust these people. This is why you can't trust these sites. Since Arrow debuted a year after Smallville ended, the Arrowverse has always tried to differentiate itself from its predecessor. This includes doing the opposite of Smallville's infamous no types, no flights policy, and fully embracing DC superheroes with comics-accurate costumes, superpowers and tons of fan service. No doubt if Smallville was to become a part of Crisis on Infinite Earths, fans would look at this as a long-awaited sequel to Smallville, but even an event as big as this crossover would have to focus on the Arrowverse's many main characters, leaving little time to properly explore what the last decade of Superman's life post-Smallville has been like. Hang on a minute, right? So you're representing Burt Wood, right? Probably as a really old Robin, right? So shouldn't they do that now? Because that means they have to spend too much time reintroducing him. Of course not. Pitiful excuse after pitiful excuse, and it's pathetic. While it would be a dream come true for Smallville to be part of the Arrowverse Crisis on Infinite Earths, may not be the right place to integrate that series into the shared universe. It would be too difficult to properly give Smallville its due and would likely leave those fans disappointed and wanting more. Not to mention Smallville's Earth possibly being destroyed in the Crisis isn't something fans want to see. No, we don't want to see it destroyed, but it doesn't have to be destroyed. That could be one of the Earths that's actually saved. Again, a horrible, blatant political article. Look, you could try and pull the wool over my eyes, but not with Smallville, because no one knows Smallville as well as I do. I've got all the DVDs. I know all the interviews. You know, I've heard Tom and Michael and John Glover and John Schneider and Alan Miles talk proficiently about this show. So let me now tell you the real truth, why this isn't happening. Because probably Alan Miles, whose production company his stamp is on every episode of Smallville, Goff Miller Inc., probably said no. Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling probably said no. Nobody who could make this happen made this happen for many reasons. Smallville is a special show, an iconic show. and will go down in the annals of history more deeper than Arrowverse. Arrowverse is a joke. Arrow, as I say, first couple of years of Flash and Arrow were beautiful, but they destroyed it. Smallville had a beautiful decade. Yes, there were the missed turns. The final 3 seasons for me weren't the special stuff the first 7 seasons were made of, but it was still a great decade of TV, and it told a unique story. This was the character-driven story of meeting Clark Kent as a 15-year-old boy and seeing him in the very final episode finally become Superman, finally integrate his relationship with Lois Lane, that iconic relationship. There's so many amazing things in this series. It represents so many things. And to make pitiful excuses like, oh, it would be too difficult. Oh, no, this character's already been in Arrowverse, so people are going to get confused. This is the bullshit. If you people are actually swallowing this, now I don't want you to go outside Warner Brothers television studios and say, we want Smallville, we want Smallville. I won't be doing that. I told you all on Twitter. I talk a lot on Twitter about everything. At Movies TV Mad. Go follow me. But it slipped over again, by the way. I have to mention it because I don't want to hide me looking like a fool, do I? But basically, the whole thing, they're right. Look, they're right in a way, Screen Rant. It's very difficult because our Miles probably don't want to allow Smallville to be represented in Arrowverse. And as I say, the actors don't want to do it either. It's not about being too busy. Tom Welling talking about playing Batman. Yes, Tom, I'm sure you'd love to play Batman. He's really cool, and he would do your reputation. This is the thing, unfortunately, with Tom. Maybe he thinks Superman's a bit embarrassing to play. I don't know. I think he always had an issue about wearing the costume. We know that. And it's a shame, really, because Tom did a beautiful job with the character. He really got better. He was very raw as an actor in the first episode, really. But you saw him through that decade be a proficient actor, a proficient director, and such a great professional. He never embarrassed the name of Superman. And I always respect what he did with this character. He was totally Clark Kent, exactly how Clark Kent will be. And it's a shame his attitude towards Superman, but hey, it's a free world and he can feel about a character what he wants, but he always did the character justice in his performances, and that should never be disrespected. Nobody worked harder than Tom Welling on Smallville, and I will always regret that. But don't swallow the nonsense. It's only difficult to do because our Miles and Miller Goth Inc. don't want to tarnish their show, their icon, with Arrowverse. And that, my friends, is the truth of the matter. And that, my friends, is an end of another episode of the DC Movie and TV Daily. Do you like the new name? I love the new name. Basically, we're going to be talking about it all. I'm a proud DC fan, and so should you be. And we are better than Marvel.